Hello, I'm Ashwati Menon. Welcome to Powering Ahead, a YouTube series from Her Money Talks. Her Money Talks is India's first one-stop financial platform for women. We make a difference to how women manage their money and arm them with undiluted financial power. As a woman, have you ever felt that the subject of personal finance was from Mars? Have you ever wished that someone simplified money management so that you could get more from it? Isn't it time women overcame their reluctance with numbers and kept their date with financial empowerment? Her Money Talks helps you do precisely that. Her Money Talks makes it super easy to manage your money and make it work for you. Our insightful blogs give you just the handy information and hacks that you need. Our panel of experts guide you in making the right choices with your financial and business planning. At Her Money Talks, we also have a slew of curated financial products that have been handpicked, keeping in mind the woman of tomorrow. Take your pick from investment products, insurance plans, loans, card products, and more. These have been designed to simplify your decision making as well as the process of creating wealth for yourself and your family. The Powering Ahead YouTube series is a fun and really interesting video series where we showcase women icons, achievers, leaders, who really made a name for themselves. And these leaders actually connect with you to talk about money and issues that are close to your heart. So let's have a look at our guest today. We have with us Malavika Harita, founder and CEO Brand Circle, who will speak on how to be a Wondrepreneur. Malavika is the resident mentor at the NSR cell of IIM Bangalore, and she mentors startups at various other incubators. She's on the board of governors of IIM Vishakhapatnam and the governing council of Mount Carmel College and on the advisory board of the NSR cell of IIM Bangalore. Malavika has been teaching marketing and communication at various postgraduate institutes in India and abroad since the last 25 years. A warm welcome, Malavika, to the Powering Ahead series, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashwati. And thank you for inviting me to be here today. A great pleasure to be here today. It always excites and interests me to be able to talk to women and to share with you all my experiences with the hope that you may find something in that that helps you with your personal and your professional life. Let me also add that whatever I'm going to tell you in the next 30 or 40 minutes is based completely on my personal experience. I don't believe in giving gyan, and I also believe that all of us, to be better people, have to go through our own experiences, good and bad, and make mistakes as we go along the way. Because according to me, that's the only way you really learn. So without much ado, let me share my screen with you. It's just that I thought some visual relief rather than hearing me constantly talk would be interesting. So here you go. Now, why 38 words, 38 ways, you may ask? I just thought, good number. And maybe I ran out of ideas at the end of it, didn't want to bore you too much. But what I'm going to talk about today is 38 ways to be what I call a Wondrepreneur. So when I was invited to speak today, I said, what is this woman entrepreneur all about? And according to me, we are a mix of Wonder Woman and entrepreneurship, right? And that's why I coined the phrase Wondrepreneur. Am I being unrealistic? No, I'm not. Because I believe that women are born multitaskers. Even if we're not born that way, we're forced to be that way. And we have 5 avatars, right? So I put this little chart together for us. And this is what I'm going to cover today. So there is the intimate or the me avatar, that's you personally. You have a family avatar. We have a professional avatar. We have a social avatar. And some of us have a public avatar as well. And you know what gets squeezed in all this? The me avatar. And that's something that I want to focus on a bit at the end of the session. How do you build a strong me? And I think that's very, very important. Unless you know who you are and unless you're strong within yourself, you can't really sort of look at all the other avatars and balance them. So our life, most women this is trying to balance these 5 avatars that we have to work with. It's hard to be a woman, right? It's very hard to be a woman. And this is something I realized over the years. You've got to do everything. So you're supposed to think like a man, you're supposed to act like a lady, you're supposed to look young, and you have to work like a horse. And this is something I rediscovered during the current COVID lockdown in Bangalore. I live in Bangalore, so during the current COVID lockdown, this is something I realized. I teach as well, and I do my mentorship, so everything went online. So I continue to do my 12 hours a day of teaching and mentoring, and then I also had to wash, clean, cook. But what I'm very proud about myself is 2 very small things. Little things make me happy, by the way. That's how I'm such a contented person, maybe. I learned to cut onions professionally, which I've never done all these years. I've also learned to make round chapatis. And I thought that was a fabulous achievement. I haven't done that either. I'm a fairly good cook. But these are the 2 things I actually learned during COVID. And more importantly, I learned that you can actually be a Wondrepreneur. I'm going to talk first about the me avatar, because I believe that if you are not true to yourself, you can't be true to anyone else, right? So let's talk a little bit about the rules of the me avatar. I want all of you to think seriously about who you are. And I mean this both philosophically and professionally. You need to understand yourself. Please do a SWOT regularly, which is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Don't lie to yourself. And for heaven's sake, don't put this up on social media. This is your own personal record of the way you are going to grow in life. And this is something I would like you to be very, very clear about. You are who you are. And the first step in being a better you is to actually write down, and I believe write down your SWOT. I did this for myself when I decided to retire from corporate life in 2018. I decided to do this for myself, and I realized that I did have a couple of weaknesses, which was the fact that I didn't know enough about digital marketing. I wanted to go back to school and learn whether my teaching skills were rusty or they were okay. I didn't know enough about analytics. I didn't know about the whole digital transformation business. So I actually went back to school. I'm very proud of myself. Even at my age, 60 plus, I managed to be top of the class, which isn't bad at all. Though my son asked me why I had lost 2 marks, which I thought was rather mean of him, but he said that that was what I'd done to him when he was a student. So please do this, visit this, and I'm spending a little time on this, but visit this every so often, every quarter at least, and figure out whether you are changing your weaknesses to strengths and threats to opportunities. Because Believe me, and COVID has taught us this, the world changes in a blink of an eye. And if you're not on top of it, you're going to lose out on a lot of things. Understand your inner strength. I love this quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, where she says, we are like tea bags. You can't tell how strong you are until you put her in hot water. I completely agree with this. And a lot of us don't understand our inner strength because we're always taught to believe, and I blame our upbringing in society for this. We're always taught to believe that we are little frail things who are not strong enough to think for ourselves or do for ourselves. Please drop this. Please understand that you are a strong person within. Believe in yourself. You can actually do whatever you want to do. I'm not saying it's easy. It's really, really tough. And believe me, I will share some of my experiences with you as we go along. It is a very tough journey. But if you believe that you can, you will, right? You need to do that. Now, other people can help you by saying, yeah, you're a great person. But unless you believe in yourself, you cannot achieve this goal, right? And this is something I want all of you to do. Believe strictly that you can do what you want to do. It isn't easy. I am not saying it's going to be easy or it's going to be fun, but there's a strong sense of achievement when you actually achieve what you set out to. You're not helpless, right? You're only helpless when your nail polish is dry. You're not helpless at all. And I believe that you should make your sex an excuse. I have been very, very fortunate. I grew up in a very enlightened family. My father was in the army. He was a brigadier in the army. I always called my mother the general of the family because she was a very tough woman in those days. In that day and age, she did so many things that no other women did. But what she did teach me was to believe that I wasn't helpless. And she would get very annoyed when I said, I couldn't do something because I was a girl. She said, never make your sex an excuse. And in fact, her strongest insult to me was saying, don't be a girl. Okay. With the result that I grew up not without any barriers in my head about what a girl can do and what you cannot do. Of course, on a lighter note, you can also use this to your advantage if you want, but don't. The other thing I have learned is the only person that you compete with should be yourself, not anyone else. Because the moment you start competing with others, you realize that there's always someone who's got more than you have, right? And this is a great way to not achieve your full potential. Long ago, when I started my career, I wanted to be rich like all of us do and live in a castle. And I wanted to be like Mukesh Ambani. But I realized very early on that he had something that I would never have, and that is solid guts. I don't know how the guy can sleep owing the kind of money he does to the bank. I can't even not pay my credit card bill one day late. I sort of start hyperventilating. And I realized I just don't have what it takes to be that kind of an industrialist and to be Mukesh Ambani. I have great admiration for the man. So I said, let me understand who I am and let me be the best version of Malavika that I can be. Never live in your comfort zone. And all of us tend to do this. I realized that I was getting so comfortable with corporate life. After all, I'd been in it for 36 years. It was such a comfort zone, right? I knew it inside out. I knew I could do things in my sleep. But I realized that I was getting bored. And one of the things I promised myself early on was whenever I got bored with something and I stopped learning, I would change track. And that's exactly what I did. I said, no, I'm not going to stay here comfortably with my paycheck dropping in on the 30th of every month, right? I'm going to go out and look at this new world. And I said, 60 is a good age. Why should the 24-year-olds have all the fun? Why can't you have fun at 60? That's what I did. I started teaching. I started mentoring. I've been traveling. I've been speaking. And I'm just having such a ball, right? And I've learned so many new things. I've met so many interesting new people. I'm just having such fun. And it wouldn't have happened if I'd stayed on where I was. So please, please, please don't go bungee jumping. That may be a little extreme, but don't live in your comfort zone. Let's come to your professional avatar. And this is very important for all of you young women who are becoming entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs. So let's look at your professional avatar, a little bit, a few rules on how you can make this better. I strongly believe, and this is the mantra that I have lived with throughout my life, that knowledge is power. The moment you know more about something than anyone else, the more you know about the company, the more you know about your subject, the more you know about the industry, nobody, believe me, nobody messes around with you. It doesn't matter how young you are. And I have people telling me, but ma'am, we don't have your age on our side. And I agree, yes, you're not as old as me. You're probably 30 years younger than me. But even at your age, when I started my career at 19, I always knew more than everyone else in the room. And I made it a point to study and to learn. And the moment you do that, the inner confidence builds up within you. Are you current? And this is why I went back to school in 2018 and brushed up everything I knew, right? Because you need in this world to be current professionally, technically, and digitally, right? You also need to develop social skills, particularly if you're running your own business. This is very important. The soft skills, as they call it, the skills of communication. These are so important in today's world. So please brush up your skill. They're not so difficult. You just need to make that little extra effort and understand that the world around you is changing so fast that you need to be kind. And this is something I tell a lot of my students, that the moment they leave their MBA, they are obsolete, right? So during their MBA, I encourage all of them to do a lot of courses to keep in touch with what is happening. There are a lot of people who are very smart talkers, particularly in this world, especially in this Zoom world. You have lots of people talking about lots of stuff. I find them fairly shallow, some of them. Some of them are very good. Some are very, very shallow. So don't get overawed by people who speak smartly, right? Listen to what they have to say. And you will realize sooner rather than later that a lot of them spin words without actually going deep into it. In fact, one of the people I really admire is Shashi Tharoor, and the way he speaks beautifully. He's the only person who can speak smartly with depth, and I find that very, very interesting. So please, don't get overawed by people who are smart talkers. In fact, a lot of them actually say nothing. Speak up. And this is something we women have a big problem with. I remember when I first joined corporate life, I used to be this strong, silent spectator sitting in the back taking notes. And then I realized I was relegating myself to, being an office assistant, which is when I spoke up and I started talking after that in meetings. And I noticed that because I knew what I was talking about, people were actually listening. No insult to Bobby, but I think if she speaks more, I think the new Barbies are becoming much more articulate than the older ones that I knew in my time. Have a point of view. Now, this is very important. Most of us, and in today's world, I'm quite worried that everyone just sits on the fence. Nobody wants to have a POV because they're scared of insulting someone or being trolled or some negative criticism. Don't frighten of criticism. Have a point of view. You don't need to hurt people with it, right? But you have to be quiet and definite about what you will do and what you cannot do. And this is something I have learned in the last 2 years since I left corporate life. Corporate life, you tend to please everybody, right? But since the last 2 years, I have realized, and I've done a lot of introspection. COVID has actually been very good for me, other than my chapati and onion cutting. I've also introspected a lot and figured out what I want to do, what I like doing, and what I believe in. And this is very important for all of you, especially because you're beginning your lives and careers. Learn to communicate. I know I'm a communication professional and this is what I do, but please, please, please learn to communicate. Learn to speak well, learn to speak without shyness, learn to present well, and these are skills which are invaluable. Now, are all of us born to be communicators? Not at all, but we can learn to be good communicators. So most of us are not public speakers by birth, but we can definitely learn to be. There are lots of tools and techniques. Be happy to take you through them and explain what you need to do to be a better communicator. I believe that if you can't tell your audience in 30 seconds what you do or what your company does, you've lost their interest, right? So they call me the value proposition lady because I'm very particular that you have a 30-second elevator pitch, both personally and professionally. I cannot emphasize this enough. Please understand your own money. You manage your budgets at home, most of you, right? So why is it that when it comes to company finances, you melt in a heap? It is your money. Manage the money of your company just like you would the money of your home, right? Just like you budget at home, just like you manage with whatever you have. Apply the same housekeeping budgeting to the money in your organization, and you will see it does wonders. It is your money at the end of the day. So please be very, very clear that you understand money. You don't need to be a chartered accountant to do this. A simple Excel sheet is all that you need. Money is a very simple thing. You have to get and you have to spend. And you shouldn't spend more than you get, which is what budgeting is all about. But forget the rest of the jargon. This is all it means, and keeping track of what you're spending and what you're earning. Right? I'm sorry, my finance and accounts friends will think I've simplified this too much. Frankly, that's all it is. Be realistic, be resilient. You will have to be really resilient, because especially in the beginning of your journey, you're going to hear a lot more no's than yeses, right? And this is something you mustn't take to heart. You mustn't get all sensitive about it. You need to leave your sensitivity out, right? Forget about it. Just be realistic, be flexible, and get on with things. And if you have to call 6 times, call 6 times. Don't hesitate and say, what will they think? Who cares? It's your business. You've got to run it your way. I must tell you that it's not enough anymore to have a plan A. You need a plan B, C, D. In fact, some of us have gone up to plan Z. Just to share a personal experience with you, when I was your age, I was, or younger, I was just out of college. If all things had gone the way I thought they would, I would have been a maths PhD teaching in a college with 2.2 children. Instead of which, I lost my dad the day I finished college in an accident. I started running our family business without knowing anything about business. I helped my mom, and we brought up my brother, saw him through college, saw myself through IIM. And then, you have this vision of life where you have this knight on a white horse who's coming to look after you, and you're going to live happily ever after. Yes, my knight did come, but he turned out to be a crow. And he disappeared in about a year, leaving me with a child. And I've been a single parent. I brought up my son by myself, of course, with my mom's help and support. But I've been a single parent. I never expected to be a single parent, right? And then I got cancer in 2015. I didn't expect to get cancer either. I was healthy as a horse. I have no problems at all except cancer. And I said, okay, so this is what God has got in store for me. It's not that I wasn't unhappy or shattered. Of course I was. I'm a human being. But I managed it. I managed things. I'm very pragmatic. And that's why I've become so pragmatic. I believe that if God knocks you on the head, it's up to you to get up and knock it back. Knock the ball back into his court and say, okay, now let's see what you can do next. And I have this very strange love-hate relationship with God, where I have not been able to understand why he puts you into trouble. But I am so grateful to him. And I call him him. Yeah, I believe that God is a man, strangely. He pulls you out before you drown. And that is something I've always been so thankful about all my life. But whenever I have a plan, I always have 3 backup plans. And that's part of my training in communication and advertising. Ask for help. Don't need to be Wonder Woman, right? Metaphorically speaking, ask for help, right? Ask for help whenever you need it, either for your professional life or in your personal life. It harms your ego a bit. That's okay. It's better to do that than to be resentful. And this is something I found. I used to try to do everything myself. And I realized it was stupid. There were people who do things much better than me. And I should be asking them to help me so that I could do the things that I was better at. The moment you try to do everything yourself, you actually fail because there is a physical limitation and a skill limitation. Fight for what you want, right? Don't cave in. Now, don't make this a confrontation, right? But be realistic. So if the other person has a very valid perspective and you agree with it, fair enough. But if you don't, say, let's agree to disagree and look around for something else to do, right? But don't cave in and then you feel unhappy about it and say, oh, I should have said this and I should have said that. Don't ever do that. Don't look back. I am going to touch on this fairly delicate subject. And again, this is based on my own experiences. In my day, we didn't have Me Too. And we did put up with a lot of stuff which is not acceptable in today's. I was going through a gender harassment sensitivity workshop the other day. And I realized that a lot of things that we had sort of taken for granted when I grew up and when I started my career is unacceptable by today's standards. That's good. That's really good. But one of the things that my mother taught me, and this is something I followed, never use your sex or femininity to get on. If you do, you're actually doing a great disservice to all the other women who are trying to get on without that. Don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is female intuition. Don't suppress that. So when you feel that something is creepy or someone is creepy, walk away. And if you're not popular, so be it. You're not one of the boys. You don't need to be one of them. And you don't need to prove anything to anybody. I know when you're younger, you try to blend in. But if things are making you uncomfortable, just have the guts to walk away. It's okay. People will say you are a spoiled sport. That's fine. They're not feeding you. And if anything goes wrong with you or anything happens to you, God forbid, none of them are going to help you out, right? So please be very clear. You need to protect you. I always do this. And I've done many things that a lot of men haven't done. I've traveled. I've never had a problem with my femininity, but I've always had my precautions. I've always taken my precautions. And I've always had this Lakshman Rekha around me. Over time, people realize that you're not there for, rolling eyes at or flirting, but you're there because you're serious about your career and your job. And believe me, most men, I'm not saying all of them, some are creepy, but most men actually are respectful of the lines and boundaries that you draw. So it's all in your hands. And it's up to you because you need to protect you. Nobody else can. I'm sorry if I'm sounding old-fashioned at this point, but I have traveled all over the world. I have only had men colleagues. All my best friends are men. And I've never had a problem with this because I'm very clear about the boundaries. There are no black and gray here, ladies. There's only black and white. There's no gray here, please. And that's a mistake that a lot of us make because we want to be popular. We don't want to be singled out or we don't want to be social media shamed. Don't be frightened of it. Let's talk about your family avatar. I don't want any of you to feel guilty that you are neglecting your family. Give them time. Give both sides of your life time. You need the professional you for yourself. You also need your family. And you need to be able to balance the two. And if you like what you do, and this is something I've been very lucky with, I'll always love my work, with the result that I never had a problem balancing. In fact, the two got beautifully integrated for me. I've never had a problem. Yes, I could have been there a lot for my son, but I couldn't. I had to earn our livelihood because I had to feed the both of us. So I never felt actually guilty. In fact, I think he was very lucky because he got my mother. He got a second mother, and my mother looked after him. And she was a fabulous mother, much more maternal than I am. And I think he had a fabulous time. And the boy loved it, okay? He made the most of it all the time. COVID, I think this is something we've all learned. Do you love your maid? Do you love your mother-in-law? And do you love your mother? And I think all three women are very, very important in our lives. I want to say something about mothers-in-law. They can be actually quite nice and quite supportive. It's just that in film sets, of course, again, there are exceptions. But by and large, you adjust to your mother, don't you? And mothers, believe me, as they get older, are not very easy to live with. So why should your mother-in-law be? They're also a human being at the end of the day, right? And I think a little bit of give and take, actually, especially because you're a professional woman and a woman that is working and needs time for her business, it's a great, and if you live with your in-laws, it's just that little bit of adjustment that you make to your own mother. Just try it with your mother-in-law. Believe me, it'll work wonders. Yeah? And because you do need a very strong infrastructural support to be a successful entrepreneur or a professional woman. I believe that sex is no barrier here. And I think COVID has again taught us this. How do you need to multitask, and you need to teach your family to multitask too. Because suppose there is another COVID and God forbid you are not there. What are they going to do? They'll be completely helpless. And in case there's no Swiggy, what do? Right? Which there wasn't. So please teach your family, your husband and your kids to do whatever they need to do to survive. I'm now beginning to call these survival skills, right? Similarly, we say that girls are not good with money. That's stupid. Teach your daughter to do whatever she needs to do, your son whatever he needs to do. There is complete gender equality when it comes to household chores. Don't be a helicopter mom. This is something I learned early in life. Let your child learn for themselves, right? Don't live your life through them. And the moment you start being a helicopter mom, I notice kids get very lazy and allow you to do their lessons for them. Not a good idea. I wanted to use a stronger word here, but I decided that I'm going to be politically correct. Life can be a pain, right? And strength of character is how you face it with grace and dignity. I have pictured Gayatri Devi here because I believe she's one of the most dignified women who knew how to walk away when things got bad. Such grace and dignity. And this is something that stands you in good stead, even through the hard times in life. On a lighter note, have you ever thought how boring it would be if you had a life without any problems? I think problems actually make us stronger and more interesting, and makes life more interesting, frankly. Again, this is something we women don't know how to do. We don't know how to cut the umbilical cord. We don't know when to walk away. We stay in abusive relationships. We stay in bad jobs. We get harassed by bosses, right? And we just hang on because we are too scared or too frightened or too habituated to make the cut. And this is something I say to you, even me. I stayed in a bad marriage for almost 2 years because I was worried about my son and what would happen to him. And then I realized one day, what the heck, I will fight and get his custody. Nobody can do anything about that. And I did. And I got the custody. And I realized suddenly that I was just making a big bogeyman about nothing. Sometimes we linger till it is too late. And then we keep regretting that we couldn't change stuff. Please pick up a copy of the Serenity Prayer. I know it's a very odd thing. This is what the Alcoholics Anonymous use. And I think it's a wonderful little prayer. Nothing to do with God or spirituality. It's just the way that you look at life and the fact that you can walk away and you can't change something. So it's all about acceptance. I believe this is very, very important. Let's come to your social avatar. Don't believe everything you read on social media. Everyone on social media seems to be happy and grinning and partying and dressed up and pretty and whatever. Rubbish. They're just like we are. They're all having bad days, but that's the face, the avatar that they put up on social media. You never see our happy people on Facebook or Insta, do you? Don't waste time on envy or self-pity. And this is one of the big problems with social media on a moralistic ground. I believe that we believe a lot of what we see, and then we feel very envious or, pity ourselves. And this is something I have learned the hard way. Pick yourself up. Yes, you're going to go through bad times. You're not going to do as well as XYZ, but you are you. Brush your knees, dust your hands, get on with life. Don't children get up and walk when they fall? Learn from them. Learn how a toddler gets up and keeps walking till he perfects it. That's what you need to do. Face situations. Don't back out. I love this little sumo who's facing up to the giant guy, right? We tend to back off when things get a little uncomfortable. Don't. And then we keep cursing and kicking ourselves for doing that. Don't worry about what they will say. All of us were brought up by this they, right? We're always worrying about what they will say, what they will talk, what, if you marry this boy, what will they say? If you do this, what will they say? I strongly believe that parents use they to discipline us, particularly Indian parents. And I think sometimes we do the same with our kids and say, what will they say? They never fed you. I've been trying to find this they since I was 19 and my dad died. I haven't yet found they. And I realized that they don't feed me. I feed myself. And then I stopped worrying about it. I say, go to hell. I don't care what you say, as long as I know what I'm doing and I'm clear about it and my conscience is clear. Doesn't really matter. Don't be frightened of failure. You are going to fail, right? All of us are going to fail. I mean, we don't fail, we're not going to win. Because success is only for social media. It's not for you as a person. It does nothing for you as a human being. And it's only failure which actually helps you to win. And this is something, use failure positively. If you fail, figure out, don't put the blame on anyone else. Figure out why you failed, assess it objectively, solve the problem or sort it out and get on with life. If you made a mistake, clean up the mess as soon as possible and move on. Talk to someone about it if it is very depressing or makes you very unhappy. But please admit you have made a mistake. If you don't admit that and you always say it's someone else's problem, you're never going to grow as a human being. And this is the problem with a lot of us. We're always blaming someone else for something that is happening to us today. So we blame our mother not giving us milk when we were studying for our exams. And that is why we are scarred 20 years later, which is ridiculous. Take responsibility for yourself and your actions. I've always done this. And if I've goofed up, I've been very clear. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do this. I'm being wrong. My apologies. And I just get on with life. Your public avatar, for those of you who will develop it over time, build your own identity. You're not someone's mother or sister or brother or wife or daughter. You are who you are. And please do not bother about what, again, the ubiquitous they will say. Just a minute. Okay, those are questions, right? Don't be apologetic. You are who you are and what you are. And this is something, if you try to be what you're not, and I find a lot of the current celebrities and the young people who have become Insta celebrities on social media are always trying to be something that they're not. And I find that if they just go back to being who they are, they're much better, nicer people. And this is just for you, some personal advice. Get up early. This is something I have learned. I mean, I know you don't need to get up as early as I do. I get up at 4:30 every morning. But I like that first 30 minutes or half an hour of my time all by myself. I sit on my potty. I'm a solitaire addict. I play my solitaire. I read a book, no phone. I just have that little quiet time. It's just me. That's all. There's nobody else awake in the neighborhood. Even my watchman is fast asleep. I just spend that little time all by myself. And I have a lovely loo because that's one place where nobody can touch me. So I quietly sit in my loo and nobody comes in, thank God. And I have that little time to myself. So please give yourself that time every day. Sundays are not a time for activity. Be a sloth. Figure out your cooking, everything on Saturday. work like a donkey on Saturday. Give yourself that time on Sunday. Don't pack it with activity. This is a mistake a lot of us are doing. And I've realized after COVID, it's great to have a quiet Sunday where you just do your own thing and you have all your members of your family, each one doing their own thing, talking when you want to, not talking when you don't, playing a game, watching something, reading, whatever you want to do, right? And that's so restful. You'll never have Monday morning blues if you do it this way. One of the things as a wonderpreneur, you have to be super organized, not supra organized. You need to have a list, and you have so many apps on the phone that you can use. Please make a list and plan your day every day in the night for the next. Spend 10 minutes of your time. It doesn't take long. Even in the loo, plan your day for the next day. What you're going to cook, what you need, if you do your own cooking, what you need to buy. Okay, do all of that. What you're going to do at work, what you have to finish, everything. Make a list, keep it with you, and stick to it. Now, some of the other things with regard to home, you need to actually routinize the drudgery of housework. It is drudgery, believe me. So finish your shopping on Saturday. That's what I do. I take my big bags and I rush off, finish off all my shopping, store things. Another thing I learned during COVID, you don't really need to cook every day. Cook once in 2 days, free stuff. That's why you have a fridge. Have a personal repairs and maintenance day. This is something I do religiously. Every month, I take a day off and I go and sit in the beauty parlor and get all the things we women get done, hair, nails, whatever you want to do. You feel so good about it and you feel so good about yourself. And you meet a whole lot of very nice young women who talk to you and you can just, gossip about the film star, whatever you want to do. And it's such a great feeling. Please do this. It's very essential to recharge your batteries. How are you going to get from where you are to where you want to be? My last bit of advice to you, do an Ikigai. Please download this small little tool that is available and figure out, this helps you really to understand who you are. And more importantly, what you can be paid to do. So if you can actually combine your passion with your abilities and your skills, you're on to win. Like I realized that advertising was something and communication was something that really gave me a high. And when I did my Ikigai, I realized that teaching is also something that gave me great joy. And that's what I've done. I've combined my love of communication, my love of teaching. And I don't know how many people my age can say that I've actually got my second career and I'm enjoying myself thoroughly. Remember, you are a wonderpreneur and you can do whatever you want to do. Please celebrate being a woman. Tell yourself every morning, actually I can. And may the force be with you. Thank you. Over to you, Ashanti.
Thank you, Malavika. I'm just taking in all the information, all the experiences that you've shared with us. It almost seems like you've summarized, whatever women need in this one presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. Very, very
thank you.
Lovely. Thank you.
We've actually got people who are very interested to ask you some more questions. If I may please put out the questions to you.
Sure.
So the first question that comes to us is, I don't feel good when I compromise on my kids' needs to carve out some extra time for my venture. Both are my babies. So how do I resolve this internal conflict?
Okay. Yeah, it is. And you do feel guilty. You need to remove guilt from your dictionary, right? And it is difficult to do. But having said that, and this is why I mentioned the maid, the mother, and the mother-in-law, you have to build a strong infrastructure. I'm not sure how supportive your partner will be or can be, right? Because maybe he's also busy. But you have to, if you don't want to get the sense of guilt, you need to build a strong infrastructure, support infrastructure. All right? Yes. Sometimes, and you have to be flexible enough about it. That's why I did the morning thing. So I used to get up in the morning, finish all my work, then use a little time in the evening, which means your child has to have a routine. Your child cannot be up till 1 in the morning. So put the child to bed at 8 o'clock or 8:30, and then use a couple of hours after and before for that extra time that you may need. Right. But when you're with the child, don't be bothering about the office and vice versa, because then you're doing justice to neither. You actually have to carve out your day into very strict modules. And if you cannot do something today, nothing is going to happen before tomorrow. No one's going to die. You need to take a little bit of a laissez-faire attitude about life.
Right. Thank you so much. I'll move on to the second question, Malavika. There is a question that's come that says, entrepreneurs need to be tough and assertive in order to succeed. However, for women entrepreneurs, can that be seen as too aggressive or pushy? Is there something of a thin line we can't cross? Is all fair in love, war, and entrepreneurship?
Okay, nice question. Don't understand what you need to do. Be very clear about what you need to do. It's your venture. And if you have to go out on a limb sometimes and push people to get what you need, what you want, do it. Right. Now, I think you're worrying what they will say. Yes, they're obviously going to say she's pushy. That's fine. You're pushing for a cause. You're pushing for a reason. You're not pushing for yourself. You're pushing for your business. So don't get guilty about that. We keep getting this guilt complex about everything we do. Yes, if you need to be aggressive, you have to. If you need to call 22 times, please do so, because it's your business, right? And I think you shouldn't back off. And we tend to do that. We say, okay, he said. Ask straight. And I've always believed that, I ask straight. I said, if it's not working this way, are you going to work with me or not? And I believe that asking a straight question saves a lot of time. This is something I like about the Westerners. They're very clear. They have yes and no. In our culture, nobody says no. They say maybe. So you should become adept at reading body language and understanding when people are saying maybe, they're actually giving you a runaround and they really don't mean to buy from you. So that comes with experience. You understand what people actually mean. But don't be frightened about being aggressive. You have to be. Otherwise, you're going to be walked all over, both in life and in your work.
Right. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. There is just one more question that's come from one of our other participants. The question goes like this. As a startup founder, I've always wondered whether my professional identity should be limited to entrepreneur, or should I stress on being a woman entrepreneur? Personally, I don't feel the need to add a gender qualifier, but would love to know your thoughts around this.
Exactly. I don't think woman entrepreneur, we're talking about women here. I don't think woman entrepreneur is required. You're an entrepreneur, you're a human being. Your gender is immaterial. Your gender and your color are absolutely immaterial to the equation. Don't bring it in. Because I think what is happening today, especially in the corporate world, we are creating this new caste called women, right? And it's actually doing a disservice to a lot of us, because we are seen anyway as secondary citizens. Now we are being seen as, reserved categories, right? And I think that's very bad for us as a gender. We are 50% of the population, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. If you know what you know and your knowledge is deep, don't add the word woman on. Just say, I'm an entrepreneur. Be very, very proud of it. And they know you're a woman, okay. But how does that matter? You're still an entrepreneur, right? Your gender doesn't change anything about what you do. I have never used gender in my entire professional career, and I was an entrepreneur too. I've never used my gender. I said, I am me, this is what I do, interested or not.
Thank you so much, Malavika. Thank you very much. This was really an insightful, amazing session for all of us. I think I took back a couple of things, like, look after yourself, which is something that will stay with me.
Okay. Thank you, Ashwati.
Thank you. And for our audience today, I do hope that you enjoyed being with Malavika and listening into all the beautiful thoughts about women. And We really want your support on our YouTube channel. So please do like, share, comment, and support Her Money Talks. And stay tuned. We come back to you next week, next Saturday, same time. So stay safe and goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Just to leave you with one single thought, anybody, any woman who wants to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn or Facebook. Please send me a friend request mentioning that we met here, and I'd be most happy to talk and help you with whatever little experience I have. Thank you and goodbye.
Great.